Welcome to coffeeis.me podcast, where me means you, or more precisely, us. This is the show where your host, Valerian, without using any interrogation techniques, convinces coffee professionals to reveal their secrets to teach and inspire you to make better coffee and earn a few bucks on the side, if that's what you fancy. Let the show begin.
Hello coffee friend, I hope by now I can call you friends. Welcome to coffeeis.me podcast, I'm your host Valerian Hrala. Thank you for spending your valuable time with us, I highly appreciate it. Did you ever wonder, what do the coffee importers do except taking our hardly earned money? Well, if you did, this episode is for you. Obviously, they do much more than taking our money. In my experience, a good relation with a coffee importer is vital to create your successful coffee portfolio. In my European coffee business, we work with few European importers, and I have to say, with most of them we have great relations, and some of them we are lucky to call friends. If you are looking for an importer, check out our list I created and constantly updating at Bootcamp Coffee. You can find a link to this list in this episode's show notes. For this episode, I decided to interview Jean Heylen from Tree to Cup. I had a chance to meet him in person at the 2015 World AeroPress Championship, where he stood next to me when Green Plantation won the title. I can't stop to think that perhaps he was our lucky charm. More importantly, I love how open he was to discuss sensitive issues we roasters sometimes have with the importers. I believe that he will give us a very good insight how importers think and what kind of weapons to use against them. Seriously, we love Tree to Cup and we love Jean, and I hope this episode will answer some questions you might have but never had a chance to ask a coffee importer. So in this episode, Jean will tell us how does the coffee get from origin to your roasters, what does he think about the direct trade, when is he happy and when not happy to send out samples? He will reveal his secret, how can he find the best lot in the field? We will also talk about how should coffee producers contact coffee importers if they want to sell their coffee. Jean will also reveal what is the ideal customer for a coffee importer. And no, Jean did not mention Green Plantation. This episode is longer than usual, so let's just do it. Hi Jean, I'm very excited to have you on this podcast. I work a lot with importers, we work with you, you know that, and I was always mega interested in your work, what you do. So thanks for accepting the invitation.
No problem, Valeria, it's an honor to be in your show.
Oh, thank you so much. So what is your coffee story? How did the coffee get you?
Well, the coffee story is already 15 years old, and I always loved coffee, and I always liked the moment around coffee. And then one day I was looking for a new challenge, and I saw an advertisement in the newspaper where they were looking for a junior coffee trader in a small coffee trading company in Bruges and in Belgium. So I applied, and it took them 2 years to educate me on coffee. And ever since, it's been, how do you say it? A wild ride in the coffee world. So I started as a trader, as a commodity trader. And then about 5 years ago, I was fed up, and I was fed up in the commodity world because I felt that I was becoming more of a banker than really a person working with coffee and producers and coffee roasters. And I believed in the third wave coffee scene. And so I quit my job at the commodity trading, and I started drafting a business plan for a coffee importing company in Belgium with a focus on micro roasters. And that's how I end up starting Tree to Cup. So 32 cup, like the Americans like to call it, because it's read like that. is actually pronounced tree to cup. So it means that we're actually there to help the supply chain between the tree and the cup. So that's in brief how I got to it.
Cool. I always make that mistake, by the way. I'm trying not to, the 32
No,
cup
no,
and
but it's
32
very
cup.
we've accepted it in a way, because it's, but in it's not bad as well, but it's we always pronounce it as tree to cup, and okay, it's what it is. You need, in this, let's say, virtual world, you need a name that is easily pronounced to have it. 32cup.com was still available, so that's
The domain name thing. Yeah, you're right.
yeah, the domain name, and yeah, five letters say it all. Huh? That's also very, the symbolics are very, the symbols are very, very important for us as well.
I like that play. It took me some time until I get it. I think you had to tell me that it's actually tree to cup, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's really cool. I like that name. Yeah. It was also a revelation for me. I was like, oh yeah, that's actually funny. That's actually cool. So tell me one thing. You said that you worked for a commodity company. You were trading like a stockbroker. Mm-hmm. Have you been drinking coffee then, or what does a coffee commodity trader do? Do you drink guys coffee? Do you evaluate it somehow, or you just look at the numbers and trade?
Well, in a way, you also taste coffee, but it's very different, because you look at, first of all, you're cupping on number of defects, which is completely different. So you cup to see if it's clean or not, and then second of all, you look at the stability. Is it clean, and is this taste stable? Okay, that's the only thing in a way that counts, because a lot of bigger roasters look at taste profiles. We need acidity, or we need medium body, or we need a nice aroma. They don't look at the full balanced cup of coffee, because they always talk in components of a blend. So they look at it very differently. So you can have a guy that is looking for 10 containers of light acidity, medium body coffee. And then you come up with, you can go for a Colombian, a Honduras, but then you're talking the commercial grade coffee. It's a very different way of looking at it. So you end up talking volume and cents per pound. So small price differences that you're trying to breach by being creative on different origins, knowing the origin. So you have to cup, but you cup from a different perspective. You look at replacements. Okay, I could replace a Honduras SHG with a Colombian Excelso, or you replace a Brazil with a Jima 5 from Ethiopia. Because you understand that certain roasters see that as a replacement for each other.
Cool. So you were smuggling in a third wave coffee to your previous work, and that's what made your move, or how did you meet the specialty grade scene?
Well, I met it actually pretty early. I think it was in 2004 or 2005 that I was in Costa Rica. Mm. And at that time, there was a coffee crisis. The prices were very low. And the Costa Rican, let's say, coffee growers were actually very smart. They were really marketing their coffees. And one of the issues that I had as being a European coffee trader was that there was no specialty coffee scene in Europe. So you have a discussion with a nice Costa Rican person that wants to sell you his best coffee. And the only thing you can say is, hey, sorry, man, I'm European. We don't understand these prices. But I got some samples with me. I cupped the samples. I noticed there was a difference. But the problem for me was that there was no market in Europe at that point. Everybody was used to, let's say, good commercial grade coffees. I kept on following that evolution. I saw what the people of Starbucks were doing. I saw what happened in Costa Rica. I saw how it was very sustainable, what the whole scene was doing. I saw the rise of Costa Rica, and I saw a couple of other origins following. So it kept my interest, and every time I went back, I cupped these coffees, and I got more and more interested, and I smuggled in some of these good stuff, and only showed it to people that actually understood what quality should be. And they came back, yeah, this is good, but we don't have a market. We should try a single origin. Then you saw the price. So it's always some sort of a fight until I think 2008, 2009, where you saw that the scene in Europe was starting to change, and you had better demand from Scandinavia. The UK came up, so that was all starting to happen, and you had all this third wave independent coffee roasters that became more popular. Some of them were already there for quite a while, but they gained in popularity, and I went there, I cupped their coffee, I adapted my coffee profiles to their coffee profile. So you go into it, you try to understand what's behind it, and what's behind it is for me a very strong movement, because it's actually about the product. It's actually about who's making the product, who's roasting the product. All these people involved are people with skills, and that's fantastic about it. That's why I believe it's such a strong movement, and you can't just say, yeah, it's a hype, it's something that will pass on. No, because it's a very, very wide community. It's very real. It's about real people, and it's about pleasing the people that are paying for it. So your consumer is also real, and that's why I believe it's a very strong movement. It's not just something that says, okay, because today it's blue, we have to all follow blue. No, a regional roaster will make his coffee based on the regional taste. So yeah, in a way, you can't beat that. If I like more sweet because I'm from Antwerp, then the Antwerp roaster will make more sweet coffee, because I'm not alone in Antwerp that like that sweet.
I like that. I really like that. It's I think the specialty grade is here, and I don't know how big it will become, but for sure it's growing at the time. And there'll be always people who want something special. They just don't want the regular, XY brand from the Tesco shelf, right, for cheap money. But they want this story, as you said, the farmer, the roaster, how was it roasted, where was it grown, and they want to enjoy the whole experience, and they're willing to pay for that. So that's a good thing.
No, I think the consumer is much more aware of what he's doing, and it's not only on coffee you see it. You see it also on meat, on beer, on even on milk, on water. People have opinions on water, and they're willing to spend money on their water because they prefer more dry water or whatever. But in a way, these people have their choice today, where, let's say, in the 70s and the 80s, people were already happy that they had access to it. And that's where the supermarkets came in. The supermarkets were able to bring a product close to the consumer at a cheap price, at an affordable price. Today, the consumer can afford a lot. So he has the choice to make. Do I spend more money on coffee because I like coffee? Or do I spend more money on wine? Or do I spend more money on the best meat in the world? He has that choice to make.
Exactly. So you said also something interesting about creating relations that, there are some in this movement, especially great, we create relations. But you know what? There's one relation which is not that clear. At least I think so. Between coffee roaster and importers. I think many coffee roasters have no clue what importers do. So can you describe us, for example, how does the coffee get from origin to your warehouse? What are the steps?
Okay. Well, I normally have a nice little drawing that I give to the people that start with our company, where I'm showing the different steps. So you actually start, if you look at the export process in the origins, at most places, it either starts at the mill or it starts on the boat, okay? So if you start at the mill, you have to take or buy the coffee, let the people locally put it in a container, or wherever, if you want to air freight it, put it in a box and bring it on a pallet to DHL or other, or FedEx or UPS or TNT. Sorry if I don't know them all. But if you go for containers, you fill the container at the mill. That container is sealed, so it's officially sealed, locked, so that it can't be opened without being noticed. At the mill, it moves towards the port. If it can be 50 kilometers, but for example, if you do that in Bujumbura in Burundi, it will be, I think it's about 3,000 kilometers, it's going to be 14 days on the road. Okay, so you seal the container. There's an independent guy looking at the seal, giving the seal, writing everything down, makes a paper, which is actually your title of property. Okay, so the container moves to the port, is shipped on the boat. So in a lot of cases, it goes straight on the boat by the exporter. Okay, then we give the shipping instructions to the shipping line. The shipping line brings the container to the port of Antwerp or New Jersey or Busan or Melbourne. So it's your instructions that count. Okay, you pay a fee for that shipping rate. So you have a shipping rate. So when it arrives in the port of destination, which in our case is mostly Antwerp or New Jersey, the coffee, the container is unloaded from the boat and is put on the quay. On the quay, it's still in hands of the shipping line. You give the original documents of the title of property. So in shipping lines, that's the bill of lading, the BL. You give that to the trucking company that goes and pick up the container on the quay. Okay, they go with a truck, they give the papers, the shipping line puts the container on the truck and the truck drives off. Okay, the container is still not opened. So you tell to the trucking company, come to that warehouse, we'll open the container. So at the warehouse, somebody will take the papers and will look, okay, the seal number is this, the container number is this, the weight is this. So they all check that before they even open it. If there's a different seal, they will warn, for example, the authorities to come by and say, okay, you here to be present at the unloading because we think there's something wrong with the seal, so somebody might have opened it. You can also alert your insurance company. So the container is opened and is inspected at the first sight. So that means that somebody of the warehouse or yourself can be present to, when it's open, to smell actually what's coming out of the container. But don't forget, this coffee has been in there for 30 days or 60 days in some cases. So you want to be there if there's something wrong. Then you do a first inspection, everything looks okay. You start to unload, and if upon unloading there seems to be something wrong, you can also alert the insurance company. But in, let's say, 90% of the cases, there's nothing wrong and everything is nicely unloaded, and you take your samples on 50% of the bags and you cup the sample. So that's about everything up to the warehouse in the port. If you want to load it out or export it to the roasters, then the process goes from, we put it on a truck and the trucking company comes to pick it up and brings it to the roaster.
It's interesting though, because I never heard this, and it's kind of good to know why. If I see on your offer a coffee and it says it's on a way, I'm like, what do they mean on a way? It's like in 2 months. So basically, it's loaded and it's on a ship and it's sailing to your place.
We have control. In a way, we have a control. Once we announce the shipping date or the arrival date, we have a full control of the logistics.
So what was you said that you have to break the seal and check for smells and kind of evaluate the container at your warehouse. What was the worst story you encountered?
We have a couple of those. One was a coffee from Honduras, I think it was. And it was packed in jute bags, but the jute bags were cleaned in diesel and gas oil. Uh-huh. So in a way, a jute bag always smells. So it's not uncommon in a way that they also smell for petroleum, or in a way for oils, because they use some sort of vegetable oil to clean the bags. So by the time it arrived in the port, if you opened the container, it was like you were in a station next to a gas oil station next to the highway. It smelled. It was incredible, and the coffee as well tasted like diesel. It was disgusting. That was one of the things that you said, come on, you can't do anything anymore with that coffee. Another example was that, for example, I think it was in Tanzania, between the mill and the port, the coffee must have been switched. So all the bags looked normal. There were 320 bags in a container. By the time it arrived in Antwerp, it seemed that in 100 bags, they switched the coffee partly with salt crystals. But it's very weird because you get a sample. They take a sample on 50% of the bags. So it was only on 1/3, and there were quite big crystals. So not everything came through. And so we were cupping the coffee and we said, what's this type of taste? It's salt, but you can't explain it until you start going into the bags and see what's going on with this coffee. And then you find crystals, and then you start sorting out the number of bags. And then we saw 100 bags had crystals. And in total, I think for the 6 tons of coffee, I think they switched 3.5 tons by salt crystals. But can you imagine doing that? Can you imagine stopping a container, opening the container, getting 100 bags out, getting 50% of that bag out, and switching it into salt crystals?
That's just crazy. And what can you do once it's in your warehouse?
Destroy the coffee and ask the insurance to pay it.
Oh, so insurance pays it. It's not the exporter, farmer / producer. It's the insurance company who deals with this?
Yes, and the insurance company will try to claim back the money where it's lost. So it's going to try to find the people in origin that are responsible for that, but try to find the Tanzanian that is responsible for switching 3.5 tons of coffee into salt crystals.
That's just crazy.
It's crazy because we're always talking with, let's say, countries, not always, but in a lot of cases, countries that have a different political system or judiciary system. So you can't just go and call a lawyer and say, hey, I have a problem in Congo. Please go and get the guy. No, it's almost impossible. So that's why it's all about people and what we do. You have to trust the people in origin so that they do your job, or they do their job properly, and you can trust what they're doing.
Yeah, I totally agree. By the way, you mentioned that you cup the sample, obviously, when it arrives. How do you know that it's the same what you bought? Do you cup it at the origin before you buy it, or do they send you samples from the origin, or how does this work?
Well, you have two ways. Either you go to origin, and we do that in a lot of cases, of course, and then you appoint or you work together with partners locally, and you trust them. And they can try it once and screw it up once. They only have one chance. But if you go to origin and you come with a good plan and you find the right people, it's in a lot of cases very easy to work. Because coffee people you recognize from a distance, let's say it like that. You really see honesty in people. That's what we all have in this coffee world, is that you still recognize honest counterparties, because that's how you have to look at it. There was a nice scheme in Brazil, I think, if I'm not wrong, it's about 10 years ago, where in 2 months' time, there were more than 80 containers that were shipped with sand in it.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah. So it was a scheme that was actually well built, because these guys shipped their first containers and apparently they were very good at it, because I didn't encounter it, but I heard the story. They were very good at it, and they came with some more, and that they were good at that as well. And then after 1 year, people were buying more and more from them, and so they did the scheme in 2 months' time, and I think they collected $2 million with it.
And was this the producer of that coffee who did the sand trick, or was it?
No, this was exporters.
Oh, okay.
So no, but it's pure banditism.
It is. It's horrible.
It's fraud.
It's scary.
Yeah, but in a way, you should never forget that you're always talking about a lot of money. And you're talking about a lot of money in very poor countries.
Yeah, this whole situation bringing me into the next question, which I always wanted to ask a coffee importer, by the way. What do you think of the direct trade movement? And just to clarify for people who don't know what direct trade is, direct trade is when coffee roasters go and source their coffee directly from the farmers. So what do you think as a coffee importer about this movement?
I'm very pro direct trade. I think every roaster in a way should try to do it at least. But on the other side, I'm also against it. Well, not against it. I'm opposing it in a way because it sometimes creates an imbalance in a local market. Because if a roaster goes there, he comes with his idea of what a coffee should cost. So he's going to talk to the producer and say, okay, I'll take your best coffee for, I don't know, 400, 450 cents, which is fantastic for the producer, don't get me wrong. But he's never talking about the 55 or 60% other coffees on that guy's farm. And that's where I'm opposing. We look at the coffee with the producer, we're going to try to help him on all his coffee, from the best to the worst. That's how we look at it. And that's what we're trying to do, is help the guy to be an empowered entrepreneur, to really be strong on his own. If he can sell his coffee at 450 cents to one guy, and it's 20 bags, and he's producing a total of 100 bags, he's going to sit on his 80 other bags thinking he's going to sell it as well at 450 or at least at 300. But if you have a market which is at 110 cents or 120 cents at the moment, that's going to be very hard. He's going to be very hard to sell it. He can be very proud. And in the end, he's going to have a very old product and he can't sell it at all.
Are these situations like happening in the real world? So are you encountering when a farmer, let's say, sold his best lot to a roastery and then he is having a trouble to sell his medium level or, let's say, worse lot?
Of course. Think about it yourself. Imagine that you're a coffee farmer and a nice guy from Slovakia comes by and says, look, I'll pay you 3 times the market price for your coffee because you're a nice guy, you're a good farmer, you're in a perfect location, and by coincidence, I'm here and I can buy 20 bags. Okay? So the guy is going to be excited. So you imagine yourself that you're a farmer and say, okay, in the past 10 years, I've sold my coffee at 100, and suddenly somebody comes and pays 4 times the price. What do I do with the 80 other bags? I wait for the next Slovakian to come by, or I wait for his cousin from the United States to come by and buys that as well. I hope, well, the crop is still, let's say, 2 months ago, so I can still sit on this coffee because I have the best coffee in the region because this guy paid me this price. I can sit another 2 months on these coffees and somebody will pass by, like this Slovakian guy that came by, okay? And after 2 months, nobody comes. So he's still sitting on his 80 bags, still dreaming about this 450, while in the meantime, his coffee is getting older. Mm. And you're at the end of the season, so less people are interested in it. So in the end, he ends up selling it as end of the crop or past crop. Or he can try and sit on it for another couple of months and try to mix it then into his new crop to the crazy Slovakian. So it's a very delicate balance. I'm exaggerating, of course.
Yeah.
I'm not saying everything is like that, but we have to be very aware that there's a critical balance that sometimes is breached. I'm not saying it's everywhere, and most of the specialty coffee roasters, coffee producers have learned that in the meantime. So you see that they're coming now with the best of the crop, the second best of the crop, the third best of the crop, and so they're trying to find systems in ways so they can continue to sell, because it's also about cash flow.
You said also that you are pro direct trade in some level. So what would be your argument for doing the direct trade? Is that again about the money? So at least he can get more
No.
for the... No? Okay.
Yeah, it's about money, of course, but on the other hand, it's also about relationship. It's about partnering up. It's about sharing. It's about acknowledging who is doing what for who. Okay. In a way, the producer should be happy to sell is happy to sell his coffee to a roaster direct, because he sees where his product is going. But also he needs to understand that what the roaster does and the barista does is also very important in the chain, because they are adding all the value to it. Okay? If you see on the whole value chain and why people are able to pay such a high prices to the producers, it's because they can sell it very expensive. So the producer is nothing without, let's say, the roaster and the barista, while the roaster and the barista are nothing without the producer. So the direct chain is very good because it connects people and empowers people and makes people understand that you have to work together in this. I think direct trade is very good because it highlights the cooperation. And in that cooperation, we as importers have also a job to do.
I have to say that even though we do not, my Slovak company, just to clarify, does not do direct trade, we sometimes do direct relation. So we connect with the farmers and kind of just have fun together and update them, what's happening with their coffee, make pictures, because I see how proud are they, for their lots. And that makes us also feel great that we don't butcher their, treasure, that we do a good job with it.
But it's very important. I think we're all entrepreneurs, so we all have to learn from each other. We're not just the North and the South anymore. We're not smart and stupid. We're not loaded with money and poor. No, today we're all creating something on our territory. Okay, if it's a producer creating the best coffee, or if it's a barista creating the best cappuccino, or if it's a roaster creating the best roasted coffee, or if it's an importer bringing the coffee on time, bringing the coffee to the door. All these steps are very important in that chain. And direct sourcing is a fantastic thing. And we support it for our customers as well, if we can. Because we are the first ones to support it, but it has to make sense. If it's for a customer, no problem. If it's for just somebody that got stuck in Rwanda with 3 bags of coffee, then it's a different ballgame. Mm. Be realistic about it.
So for me, the advantage to buying through importer, and that's individual, because we are a small company. My company in Slovakia is very small. So my main advantage is that you are taking the risk. And as you said, there is a lot of risk.
And that's why direct trade, the trial of direct trade is sometimes good as well, no? Because people realize that what we do as an importer is we do a lot of risk management. First of all, risk management on quality, but second of all, on shipment. Third, it's on financing, okay, because you also have to finance the coffee 60 days until it's at the roaster, insure it, all these things, we do that. And if you saw the SCAA calculation sheet of where are the added values made, yeah, we do it for, I think it's 1.5% of the value of the coffee, which is nothing.
Yeah, I did that calculation once, and I was like, this is pretty okay for us. As a roaster, it's not a big deal to pay. But no. There are a lot of different people. Somebody wants to do their own, and fine. I mean, some companies are big enough to do their sourcing already. But
I'm wondering if you can do it on 100% of your coffees. As a roaster as well, because you can predict your sales, but your sales are faster than the production of the coffee. So in a way, if you decide in February to buy 20 bags from Costa Rica, by the time it arrives in July, let's say, it could be that you need 30 bags, or it could be that you only need 15 bags. So I think for a roaster to do only direct sales is kind of hard. Or you have to have a lot of money and good warehouses to store the coffees.
Mm-hmm. I think that what I know in United States, in my neighborhood, companies which do some level of direct trade, they do only some level, and they're pretty big companies because, in one case they have their own farm, and also they have some relation with one or two farms, and they buy, direct trade from them, but they still buy from importers a lot. So I think
by starting Tree to Cup 5 years ago, we are pointing out that we still have a value to add in the whole system, because otherwise I would never have started this company. And we focus our focus is on the logistics and on the sourcing, because we are going into the origins. We have our networks. We go there. We try to find the right producers. We try to support the right producers by buying every coffee they produce, and so that's how we have in certain origins really our ways to get to the best coffee, and let's say in a beneficial way for both the producer and for us, and then for the roaster in the end. But the roaster looks at buying from us more opportunistically, while the producer is really depending on what we do.
How do you find these producers? There is thousands of farmers all over the world. Who gives you the tips? Tell us.
It's different ways. It's by talking to a lot of people in origin. A guy knows a guy that knows a guy. That's one of the ways it works. There's the Cup of Excellence, of course. There's trial and error. Okay, you come by a guy, he claims to have the best coffee, you ship it, it arrives, it's not that, or it's perfect, or so it's experience, it's a network, so it's in every origin it's a bit different. Like for example, let's say Burundi, you find a certain region, and in that region you start, and in that, then once you start it, you go for a second washing station, a third washing station, and that's how you grow it. And you try and you educate a bit how they have to pick, how they have to dry, how they have to ferment, how they do the selection of the cherries, and it passes on. Right? It's small communities looking to increase their output and looking to increase their revenues. So if somebody has a good way of doing it, and every year we're proving it again, and every year we're back, and every year we pay a bit more, and every year, yeah. So that's how it works. Huh? It's a very slow process in a way.
One of the most often emails I get through my online education platform, United States, is how can we sell our green coffee? There's a lot of producers who contact us with emails or through Facebook that they want to sell their coffee through us, and we don't sell green coffee, we do online education. I almost wonder if this is one of the biggest spams in the industry, the green coffee unloading. And I'm like, I don't know how. In some cases, I know these guys and I want to help them. So, what do you think is the right approach to? What do you think is the right approach to approach an importer? That's a nice sentence. So, how they should approach you?
Well, we have quite a standard way of doing that. We always ask first to send us samples and really label them in the right way, okay, so that we can really see what coffee is behind it. If the coffee passes on our table, then we go and see who's behind it. If we trust the guy or girl or company behind it, we will try to do a first purchase. If we don't trust it in a way, so they're quite new and there's no background, we will probably try to find a network or within our network, somebody that could pick up the coffee. Okay, could be 20 bags, could also be 5 times 20 bags, could be a full container. But we will use our way then, and then we'll buy the coffee. And we try to be honest about it, straightforward and honest. Not everybody likes this model. They all hope that we just buy and they just send coffee, but there's a hard reality about it.
So it means that if they send you samples, you give them a feedback. So let's say why you did or why you did not buy it.
Yes.
Cool. That's really cool.
Yeah. There's also a limit in what we can buy. There's a hard reality about the limit in in our financial means, in the let's say the volume we can get from an origin for a certain crop, and we are able to sell as a company. There's limits to things, but if a coffee is fantastic and we can get our hands on it, we'll do it definitely. But the problem is, and that's also one of the things you notice after all these years, is that every producer in every country has the best coffee in the world.
Well, we believe also that we roast the best coffee on the world, right?
Yes.
So it's just, if you do something, you believe that you are the best, and you hope
it's
that you're
fantastic. And it's sometimes very hard to bring the reality.
You said that quality is important for you when you select coffee. How important are certificates? By certificates, I mean fair trade, organic, UTZ or UTZ, what do we call that? So how important are they when you're selecting coffee?
Robert Turensen has given it the genuine name sticker coffee.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Because people only buy it because of the sticker. For us, it's not important. I think it's actually on the third place in our hierarchy of decision. Third or fourth, actually. So first is quality. Second is who's behind it. Okay, how genuine is this product? Is this a lucky shot, or is it really specialty, made to be specialty? And third could be, is there a traceability sticker on it? That could be part of the decision. But it's, for us, not the main decision. What we do, however, is have certain roasters that ask us, look, we want to do a project with a certain sticker. Do you have good supplies on that? And that's something we can do, because we have certain cooperatives that have fantastic coffee in there, but for example, that have 1,000 tons of fantastic coffee, which is impossible to sell as let's say micro lot or a high specialty, because you're talking coffees between 82, 84, sometimes 85. And you can't just say, from the 1,000 tons, split it up into 1,000 lots of 1 ton. So no. But these guys, for example, have sometimes an UTZ or a fair trade certificate, and then we'll try to sell the project as a fair trade project or as an UTZ, and we still take the best lots out as micro lots and sell the micro lots, and in the meantime sell everything else premiumized, we call it, because people are paying a premium to get the sticker. So in the end, you have 1,000 tons that is optimally sold at the highest possible price.
How would you think, what's the trend nowadays between the coffee roasters? How do they buy coffee? Are these stickers important for them?
A bit depending on the markets. Are stickers important for a roaster? In Germany, yes. In Scandinavia, no. Apart from organic, maybe. But that's not really, let's say, a sticker. Well, partly it's also the way they grow it. In the United States, it's let's say in between. And Asia, it's not at all an issue. So you see, it's every market on its own. But Europe in general is quite important, because they have been the first on it. And for a lot of markets, to be honest, if they calculate the percentage of specialty coffee in a country, in a lot of countries, sticker coffee is considered to be specialty coffee.
Oh, wow. That's nasty.
Yeah, that's very, even in the States. So it's very nasty, because it's not what specialty coffee is about.
What do you think is the ideal roaster and importer relation? How it should look like? And do you as importer have a favorite kind of a roaster?
We have a favorite type. How do they look? How does the relationship between the importer and the coffee roaster ideally look like? That's a big question. In a way, it's about communication. It's about trusting the importer as well to do his job. So it could be, if a roaster would send me an email, say, hey Jean, I need 20 bags to be delivered in a week's time. What do you suggest? that's the perfect email for us, because we can then have a seasonal, we can deliver him the best coffees at the moment. On the other side, it could also be, hey Jean, we need for a year a nice, clean, stable coffee. That's also ideal for us. But it's about openness and transparency in a way. It's you trust us on what we see, what we cup, what we supply, and we trust you that you make the best product out of it. Because there's a lot of things that can go very wrong in the roasting part of coffee. We can do the perfect importation of the perfect coffee, but if in the end you guys screw it up and somebody cups in and say, hey, that's 2 cups coffee, yeah, okay, guys, we should claim to you.
Well, okay. You said there is this trust. I always like to ask importers for samples because there is trust, and we like to work with certain importers. But in our past time, we worked with other importers too in Europe, and we got burned. Well, first, sometimes it's just a honest mistake, and that happens like in every business, and we let it go. But it happens second time, we just stop the cooperation and we just say goodbye. So I love to ask for samples, and what I teach here in the United States is always that people should ask for samples and they should make up their mind about their portfolio. So what do you think if, let's say, a newbie asks samples from you? Would you send him a sample, or does it have to be a company which is already established?
Well, no, that's not where we cut. Let's say there's a couple of things I want to say about that. First of all, we don't have a problem to send out samples. But if somebody sends me an email and says, hey, I'm starting my roasting company, can you send me 20 samples of your list? Then we're going to say no.
Okay. Why?
Because sending out samples is an expensive business. Okay. It's not just about the payment of the courier costs. It's also about making the samples. Okay. You have to get the sample out of the bag into your sample and into your cupping lab. You have to repack it in small bags. You have to put a label on it. Somebody has to put it in a box, has to send it out. So there's a lot of handling, manipulation around sending a sample. Okay. I'm always saying sending out samples for us costs about $100. Okay. So if you ask for samples, know that it's asking for $100 for free. Okay.
Well, it's not quite free, because if the sample will match, my needs, I'll order a lot of coffee.
Yeah. But you're a serious guy, because we get a lot of demands. We send a lot of samples. I think per year we send between 5,000 and 7,000 samples out. We send a lot of samples out, but there's a whole lot of people that, first of all, never cup them, which is even it makes me really mad. Okay. Mm-hmm. And second of all, if they cup it, they don't send us their cupping results, which is even weirder. Okay. You ask us a sample, let us know what you think of it, because we don't know we try to understand what you're looking for, but sometimes we're completely wrong. Okay. It's not always about the quality. It could also be about matching what you're looking for. Okay. So samples, yes, ask for samples. We don't have a problem with it. But if the second time you ask for samples and the first time we haven't received any feedback from you, might become difficult. And the third time, forget about it.
Let me play a devil's advocate here. Mm-hmm. I never send you feedbacks, but usually I send you order.
Yeah, but you buy. But that's a feedback. Eh? You liked what you cup.
Yeah. And the second thing is, a lot of roasters, they don't cup properly, or maybe they are shy with their results. That's my experience, that many times people are kind of shy to share their cupping results. And because cupping doesn't have to be just filling out, the professional forms, it can really be just making your notes and say, I like it or not. Obviously, you would love this too, right? Yes. But my issue was, when I was starting, that we knew we will not buy a pellet. We, let's say, will buy like a half pallet of coffee because we are starting. And a lot of companies make it, a lot of companies don't make it. So yes, it is a risky business for you guys. But I have to say that everybody who sent me samples in the beginning, I work with.
Yeah,
I work with because, and now,
I'm not saying we're not
start
doing it, Valerian. Don't get me wrong. We're doing it, and we're doing it a lot. But I see this forum as well as giving some sort of a warning because we've noticed, and we've only started this company 3 years ago, and we're very enthusiastic in what we do. But we noticed the last couple of months that we say, okay, certain people should stop asking for samples if they don't give us feedback, and it's just, let's say, to train their cupping skills. Yeah, okay, we have open cuppings for that. Or to keep the green beans in a drawer somewhere and just to show off when visitors are coming by and show, look, we have samples. No, it's not the way to do it. This is costing a lot of money, and people should be aware. We've already discussed this in the company where we say maybe we should ask for some sort of a down payment that can be deducted on the first order.
Okay, that's a way to do it.
I don't think we'll do it, but in a way, if you see sometimes the respect for what we do at sending out samples, sometimes you would really consider that.
Yeah, I think that's fair, and I'm very happy that you're honest about that. That that feedback, if you don't get, and because I don't have to order from you if I don't like your coffee, but I have to let you know. That's just fair. That's just how it should be, I guess.
I don't have a problem when people don't like the coffee, but I want to know why. If they think it's a defect, okay, then they think it's a defect. If they think this is not matching their taste profile, they can at least say me what taste profile they're looking for, and maybe we have something. We can't have everything. Look, we're trying to be the best in what we do, but there's 52 origins in the world. We're only doing 16, I think, at the moment. So you can't have everything, and you can't please everybody as well. People should not buy, or we don't think people would buy 100% of their green coffee needs at our place. We hope to, but at the moment we're realistic about it.
Okay, cool. Let's say tomorrow I'm starting a new company, and I'm not Valerian, I'm somebody else, I'm Peter or whatever, and I'm starting a new company called It's Good For Me Coffee. And I want to get in touch with you and possibly buy coffee from you. What's the best way to do that? How do people do that?
Okay. Send me an email, coffee@32cup.com, to keep it in my 32cup.com. Send, hey, I'm Peter. I'm starting my roastery here. This is a bit my plan. I have a 10 kilo or 15 kilo Gießen or a 5 kilo Gießen. I love Kenyans, I love Colombians, I love this, I love that. Do you have something for me? And so give us something of your background as well, so that we can live with you and understand your first needs. And then we'll reply and say, look, this is maybe interesting for you. You want some samples, you want them green or roasted. We'll help you out. That's where we're very good at.
So you're going to roast the samples for them?
If needed, yes.
How cool! I did not know that.
Aha.
No, I roast I trust you.
Yeah, but it's better to roast your own samples.
Of course, okay. you have full control over that. Yeah.
Yes, but I see that a lot of roasters are working together in certain cities in the world, that guys can use their sample roaster from each other and stuff like that. So we don't get a lot of that question, but we could do it. Why not? It's cool. It's not publicity for it, but in a way we do it.
So today we have end of September, and if after listening to this podcast somebody writes you that I'm starting a company in Europe, by the way, do you sell it only in Europe or also you do United States?
All over the world.
Okay, so but small roasters all over the world?
Yes.
Cool. Okay, so any roaster all over the world, from all over the world, want to buy from you or kind of check out your portfolio. What are your favorite lots? What should they pay attention to?
At the moment, End of September, and making my price list this morning. I'm very fond at the moment from El Salvador. That's one of the best coffees we have at the moment. Nicaragua was a big hit, and we're getting to the end of our stocks there, but that was fantastic. We're gonna get some Rwanda and Burundis I hope by mid-November. That's gonna be very cool because we started some new relationship again, let's say we restarted because the coffees we've cupped were fantastic. That's gonna be very cool. Yeah. And we have the Hacienda San Alberto from Colombia that just arrived in 35 kilo bags. And honestly, I think we finally found something in Colombia that I believe in, that has stability. That's for me very important in Colombia, to find supplies that are stable. But we have a couple of cool stuff at the moment, but let's say they're going out fast. And then, yeah, Kenya's. We have a fantastic setup these days in Kenya, where we can have really the best lots of the season. We can do whatever we want with it. We do the selection locally out of 300 to 600 lots per week. We take the best ones out and we ship them all over the world. So that's something fantastic that we started this year and it's going very well.
I love your Kenyans, I have to say. And there's one thing which I left at the end, and we are discussing now how the roasters should approach you. What I noticed that when you send out your price list, you send out the specialty grade and you send out the commercial grade. Mm-hmm. And we had a little project, we just was testing the market, and we needed a commercial grade coffee. So I ordered some samples from you, and I was really shocked about those samples. I was like, did they mix them up? Because they all scored higher than 80 points, which is the limit for specialty grade coffee. Some of them much higher than 80 points. And I was like, these coffees are very nice. Why are they on a commercial grade? So do you want to talk about your distinction between the commercial grade and a specialty grade?
Yeah, I want to explain that to you because it's a question we get a lot. Why do we do the split and how do we do the split? As I was telling you, we tend to buy everything we can from a producer. So there's, in a way, always some sort of a volume coffee that comes out. Okay, those are most of the times full container lots, or it could be 4 containers. You can't sell that as a specialty coffee. Nobody believes you. So we always buy them as, we call it high commercial grades, which for us is also an 82 plus coffee, okay? Because we're talking with the same producers, the same exporters, the same guys that are doing the work on the micro lots and the specialty coffee, the real specialty coffee. And the real specialty coffee for me is a coffee that was done on purpose. Is the coffee that the guy believes has the potential to be the best coffee he has made of the season. But like I was saying in the beginning, when we talked about direct trade, we also look at the 55% of his production, and we buy that as well. Not at the same price as a specialty lot, but also with the premium versus the commercial grades. So that's why we fetch for what we call high commercial grades, very good coffees. And it's one of the side effects that we have since the start of Tree to Cup is that we get more and more demand on those coffees as well from quite big industrial roasters, because they see that the product we're bringing to the market is, first of all, very stable, has scored very high on a lot of cupping tables, and is the volume they need. So yeah, suddenly they call in and say, hey, can you deliver 2 containers of that Guatemala? Or can you deliver 3 containers of that Kenya? And we're able to do that. And that's nice. It's a very positive side effect. And it's in a way what we always wanted with the company, is to be known on quality. And that's what is happening. People know us on quality. And that doesn't mean only on the micro lot of Brazil, but it means also on the Brazil 1718 strictly soft fine cup from Sul de Minas. but sourced through one cooperative. Always the same thing, doing the same thing. It could be on a Colombia XL, so it could be on a Kenya AB Plus. So it's after 3 years of working on that, we finally get the recognition. And yeah, it's just the 100% of the production that we're looking at.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for all this amazing information. I learned a lot, especially about the process bringing coffee from the origin to Europe in our case. And I wish you the best, and I hope you're going to bring us more good coffee.
It's an everyday, not challenge, but let's say a hunt. It's a hunt for the best coffees. And we're having fun doing it, and it brings so much nice things back. Like a podcast with Valerian.
Oh, thank you.
It's really cool you're doing this, and I love working together with you guys.
Yeah, thanks. Bye.
Bye.
I hope you enjoyed listening to Jean the same way I did. Thank you for spending your time with us. I'll put all links discussed in the show notes to this episode. Just go to coffees.me/32cups and you will see the episode and the notes there. If you have further questions for Jean or me, join our Facebook group coffees.me and ask a question in the comments below to the link to this episode. Jean is already there and he will be happy to answer your questions. Do not forget to tag Jean or me depending who is the question intended for. The easiest way to join our Facebook group is go to the podcast website coffees.me and click Community on the top menu. This will take you to our Facebook group. Click Apply and I will approve you. One sad news for this episode: I did not get any new reviews on iTunes, so this week we do not have any winner. Oh well, perhaps next time. In order to win Bootcamp Barista online course access, you need to leave iTunes reviews. So if you are interested, go to iTunes and leave me an honest review. What do you think about this show and why do you like it or not? Thank you very much for all your reviews and support. Until next time, bye!
This show is brought to you by Bootcamp Coffee, online education for coffee roasters and professionals. Subscribe to bootcampcoffee.com today and unlock the quality of your coffee.